Yeah, they said a hurricane's coming, but there's only like very soft rain outside. Like they would say in Scotland, it's a beautiful day in Scotland. And hurricanes don't scare us. You guys made it through Mitch, at least your parents did. I made it through Hurricane Andrew in Miami. We kind of specialize in hurricanes. So, what to do when it's gray and raining? Just sit it out. Read the Bible. Read good books. Watch good YouTube videos. I said like good YouTube videos, which means most of them are bad. So let me knock off a chapter, starting on page 52. And chapter's quite long, or it's longer, so maybe I'll just do one chapter. So Jason was surprised when he entered police headquarters to find a normal place that he could have been any business office in Monument. He'd expected telephones to be ringing wildly, a bank of monitors showing all kinds of activity, police officers coming and going, and cigar-smoking detectives in plain clothes hunched over their desks like on television or in the movies. It's not like that in reality. Instead, Jason found himself in a small cubicle occupied by a gray-haired man in a crisp white shirt and blue tie, sitting at a desk behind a plate glass window. The place was so quiet that Jason could hear the humming of the air conditioner. The officer, whose name was Henry Kendall, and who had accompanied Jason to the police headquarters, nodded at the man at the desk. The man apparently pushed a hidden button that buzzed the door open to their left. Officer Kendall led Jason to another office that was as bare and barren as the principal's outer office at school. No pictures on the walls, no desks or chairs, no curtains on the windows. The others will be here in a minute or two, Officer Kendall said, voice soft and gentle. You're going to be a big help to the investigation, Jason. You'll do just fine. After he left, Jason shivered slightly in the coolness of the room. He walked to the window and looked out at Main Street. Traffic moved slowly as if the heat had affected even the cars and trucks. People walked languidly, as if in slow motion. Jason thought of his mother and wondered if coming here was a mistake, then wondered why he should be having that thought. He had been surprised earlier that morning when he glanced outside his bedroom window and saw a police cruiser pulling into the driveway. Another visit from the police? His breath quickened and his heart accelerated, an emergency of some kind. But the blue and white lights on the roof of the cruiser weren't flashing, and the big red-faced officer who got out of it strolled leisurely up the driveway toward the front door. Hearing the chime of the doorbell, Jason stood still, urging his heart to calm down, if that was possible. The sight of the policeman brought back the image of Alicia Bartlett, as soon as he had last seen her, at her house. Last seen her. Poor Alicia. Jason, his mother's voice reached him from far away, and a moment later Jason stood in the foyer with his mother and the police officer. This is Officer Kendall, his mother explained to Jason. He's asking for your help in the investigation. Actually, we're asking several people for their help, the officer exclaimed. A detective spoke to Jason yesterday, his mother said, for quite a long time. I know, Mr. Durant, the officer said. His voice was surprisingly gentle for such a big man. But this is a new approach we're trying. We have some special interrogators down at headquarters who will be asking people who were out on the street on Monday what they might have seen. But I already told the detective that I didn't see anything, Jason said, and instantly regretted having spoken. Saying those words would probably eliminate him from the questioning, and he really wanted to be part of the investigation. We realize that, Jason, the policeman said, but these experts can really get people thinking about what they might have seen. Wow, this is shady. Sometimes you've actually seen things that you don't realize you've seen, or heard things that you didn't think were important at that time. With the right kind of questioning, evidence can turn up that didn't seem to be evidence. Whoa. Jason sighed with relief when his mother said, "Well, I'm sure Jason would like to help. He's a good kid." "Fine," Officer Kendall said. "I can drive him to headquarters now, where he'll join the others." "How long will this take?" Jason's mother asked. "Oh, maybe 3 hours. We'll drive him back when it's all over." Jason's mother frowned, doubt appearing in her eyes. "My husband's out of town. Won't be back until tomorrow." "What's that got to do with anything?" Jason wondered, afraid that his mother might change her mind about letting him go. The officer frowned too. "We're doing all we can to find who did this terrible thing to that little girl." His voice was so gentle and kind that Jason wondered if he ever got up the nerve to arrest anybody. Jason's mother nodded. "Well, I guess it's important for him to do his part," she said, but she seemed skeptical. "How many other people are involved?" she asked. 4, maybe 5. Mostly young people because they happen to be out on the street Monday. Jason probably knows them." And he glanced at his watch. "It's important to move fast because time is a factor." "I'd rather go with him," she said, voice still reluctant. "But Emma's got a doctor's appointment in half an hour and they're always booked so full." She looked at him anxiously and Jason blew air, impatient to be on his way. The officer glanced at his watch again. "Well, okay, do your best, Jason," Officer Kendall, she said. "He's been upset by all of this." This time it was Jason's turn to frown. Ma," she smiled wanly. "Be on your way then," she said. And here he was in this barren office, wondering if his mother was right to be worried. He hadn't seen anything unusual. He would probably be revealed as a fake. The door swung open and Officer Kendall was back with 2 guys Jason recognized. Jack O'Shea and Tim Connors. Jocks. Jocks meaning athletes. They usually wore turned-around baseball caps, always passing a basketball between them. No baseball caps or basketball now, although they came into the room in that loose-limbed, jiggling walk typical of jocks. They were followed by a kid named Danny Edison, who sometimes sat at the same cafeteria table with Jason. Danny was a thin, intense kid, face raw with acne. Jason was glad to see Jimmy Orlando appear. Jimmy was a normal kid, not a jock, not a major brain, just a regular kid, like what Jason hoped others saw when they looked at him. Officer Kendall said, "Lieutenant Braxton will be here in a minute and give you fellows the lowdown on everything. He's in charge of the investigation." After he left the room, they all stood around awkwardly. The 2 jocks meandered toward the window and huddled together like conspirators. Jimmy pulled a paperback book from his pocket and, leaning against the wall, started reading. Danny approached Jason, and they looked at each other for a moment. "This is kind of neat, isn't it?" Danny said, almost whispering. "I mean, being part of an investigation and everything." Jason nodded, glad to be talking to somebody. "What do you think's going to happen?" Jason asked. "Well, I don't know. We give statements, and I hope we don't have to write anything down like an essay. I'm rotten at composition." "Maybe they'll record our answers," Jason said, "and all we have to do is talk." They fell silent. The jocks continued to confer at the window, but glanced now and then at Danny and Jason. Jimmy turned a page of his book, but Jason had a feeling that he wasn't really reading. "Don't you feel like kind of weird?" Danny asked. "Right," Jason said, "because I don't know what I'm going to say. I mean, I didn't see anything unusual that day." Danny shook his head. "I mean, about Alicia Bartlett, that you were the last person to see her alive." Jason frowned in surprise. He hadn't realized that his visit with Alicia on Monday had become common knowledge. "Is that why he's talking to me?" Jason wondered, curious, looking for inside information. One of the last to see her alive," Jason amended. Danny lowered his eyes. When he blushed, his acne seemed to come alive, the rawness of his zits emphasized. "Sorry, that's what I meant." At At the same time, Jason became aware of the jocks looking his way, their eyes lingering on him. He grew uneasy. He didn't like to have attention focused on him. That was why he never raised his hand in class. He could feel his own cheeks getting warm, glad that he had been spared acne, at least. Had everyone heard about him and Alicia Bartlett? Silence again. Jimmy Orlando closed his book and remained leaning against the wall. The jocks again turned their backs on the room and looked out the window. Danny seemed to be staring at something over Jason's shoulder. The room suddenly became colder, as if the air conditioning had been turned up. Finally, the door swung open and Lieutenant Braxton stepped in. Still thin and intense, as if he were made of wire instead of bones and muscle. "I'm Lieutenant Braxton, and we're ready to get started, guys," he said in a brisk, businesslike way. "We really appreciate your cooperation and hope that we can come up with some vital information that you don't even know that you have." See, it sounds like they're going to be squeezed, and this smells of like some sort of false confession. He looked at each of them in turn, and his eyes finally rested on Jason. He gave no sign of recognition. "Here's how it works." He took a notepad out of his jacket pocket and flipped it open. Should be using Google Keep. "Eyes on the pad," he said. "Expert at interrogation will be questioning you. 2 of you, John O'Shea and Timothy Connors, will be questioned simultaneously because you were together most of that day. The others will be questioned individually." "Looking up," he said. "Time is of the essence, gentlemen, so let's get started." Consulting the pad again, he said, "First up is Jason Durant." Directed his eyes to Jason, recognizing him for the first time. "Okay, Jason, I'll take you along to your expert." "To the others?" he said. "I'll be right back." Jason followed Lieutenant Braxton out of the office, wondering again if he had made a mistake coming here. So yes, still like Shakespeare says in Hamlet, things smell and look rotten in the state of Denmark. So things don't smell good, meaning, I don't know, I feel like a little bit of corruption going on, like they want some sort of a false confession. But honestly, I've never read the next chapter, and the suspense is building, so I will see. Yeah, I don't care about my hair. I'm a man. Yeah, I don't care. We'll step outside. Let's go. So guys, I'll see you for the next chapter. The suspense is building. So now I'm getting into the book. In the beginning, I was all confused, but now I know what's happening. See you guys. Be safe in the hurricane.